This is British Music Radio. Classical Adventures is produced for BMR by Divine Arts Recordings. You can hear all previous editions of Classical Adventures at our website.
Classical Adventures is brought to you by Divine Art Recordings Group. Distinctively different classical music. Welcome to Classical Adventures. This month's programme was to have been devoted entirely to some important new CD releases. Music from 4 centuries featured, and that will now form the second part of our programme in about 35 minutes. But as we were writing the programme, news came through of the death of Anthony Hopkins, composer and broadcaster, on the 6th of May. So the first half of our programme will be a special tribute to one of Britain's most influential figures in music. As our tribute to the great man with whom we were privileged to work on his last major project, we'll play a number of his compositions. So let's dive straight in with the Rondo movement from his second piano sonata. It's played here by Michael Hampton. Composer, pianist, conductor, broadcaster, author, lecturer and piano recitalist, and self-styled musical odd job man, Anthony Hopkins died at 3 a.m. on May the 6th at the age of 93. Though no longer a household name to the general public, he was for many years one of the best-known broadcasters in Britain. His BBC radio programme, Talking About Music, ran intermittently for 36 years, and was also heard worldwide through the BBC transcription service. More than anyone during that period, Hopkins was able to introduce classical music to a wide audience, in a manner which was never elitist or exclusive, nor condescending or dumbed down, and his like is very sadly missed today. Due to family problems, Anthony was boarded out with a housemaster at Berkhamsted School at the age of 4, and formally adopted when he was 13, at which point he took the surname Hopkins, having been born a Reynolds. He went to the Royal College of Music in 1939, and proved, to the surprise of many, including himself, to be a highly adept composer, winning 2 of the top composition prizes. An unusual gift for incidental music brought a regular series of commissions for radio, theatre and film. He also wrote a number of books and performed regularly. His concert works are generally of a small scale so far as instrumentation is concerned, and range from tidbits for recorder to more extensive sonatas and songs. His serious work had in later years been very badly neglected, with hardly any recordings. Leading recorder player John Turner, one of many musicians who had been inspired by Anthony Hopkins' broadcasts, conceived the idea of a tribute recording for his 90th birthday in 2011. 8 other British composers, in thanks for Hopkins' broadcasts, wrote tribute pieces too, and the resulting recording brought the music of Anthony Hopkins to new generations of listeners for the first time. The CD also demonstrated Hopkins' dry and wry sense of humour, including his own recitations of 3 of his musically themed poems. He had a deliciously English character in many ways, which is brought out both in these wickedly barbed humorous poems, but also in the pastoral nature of his writing, which was always lyrical but never old-fashioned. One of his works, a pastiche suite for recorder and piano, was included on the tribute CD. Hopkins provided this reminiscence. During the 1940s, I was often involved with musical activities at Morley College, where Walter Bergman was the choir's accompanist. He was a keen recorder player and often asked me, then in my 20s, to write something for him. I must have obliged with this suite, although I have absolutely no recollection of writing it. Amazingly, the manuscript turned up many years later in, of all places, the musical library of Sir Thomas Beecham. Why and how, I shall never know. One of his constant bugbears, to which he attributed his fading from public awareness, was confusion with the actor Anthony Hopkins, with an H. It was a source of great irritation to him. Composer Michael Finnessy dropped me a note today to say that he, too, was very highly inspired by Anthony Hopkins' broadcasts. And he said, Hopkins had a rare gift for enthusiastic advocacy of a very wide selection of music, and seemed to appreciate that the guidance he could give was nurturing and reaching and being appreciated by a huge number of people, all of whom he seemed to be addressing personally, as friends. With the passing of Anthony Hopkins, who incidentally remarried at the age of 91, the world has lost a figure of immense importance, not just in his own compositions and writings, but because a great many of today's fine composers from the UK and beyond were inspired by him to love and create music. Anthony Hopkins, A Portrait, is a 2-CD set on the Divine Art label, catalogue number DDA21217, and includes chamber works, songs, and pieces for piano and violin solo, and as bonus tracks, extracts from vintage recordings of 2 of his stage works. Also on the recording are tribute pieces by Gordon Cross, David Dewberry, David Ellis, Anthony Gilbert, David Matthews, Ellis Pekkonen, Joseph Phibbs and Andrew Plant, which they all wrote for Hopkins' 90th birthday in 2011. I mentioned before the Pastiche Suite, which Hopkins wrote in 1944 and then forgot about. We're going to play it now. It's a miniature with 3 very short movements, marked Allegro molto giusto, alla Siciliano, and Vivace non troppo. It's scored for treble recorder, played here by John Turner, and the pianist is Janet Simpson. The Pastiche Suite by Anthony Hopkins, played by John Turner and Janet Simpson. 2 vocal items next. In 1945, Hopkins wrote a short cantata or song cycle for high voice and piano entitled A Humble Song to the Birds. Here is the first part, the title of which is My Darlings, Oh My Little Birds. The words are by the shadowy figure Rosenkreutz and translated by Frida Harries. It's sung here by James Gilchrist.
happy sing and happy praise, sing and praise Almighty God. His gifts to you of daily food show forth his everlasting good. Show forth his everlasting good. To honor him, your voices raise, your voices raise. Our joy, joy,
James Gilchrist was accompanied by Janet Simpson, who also plays this next song, this time with soprano Leslie Jane Rogers. John Turner on recorder also. From the 3 French folk songs, this is Anthony Hopkins' Guillon La. You're listening to Classical Adventures from Divine Art Recordings Group, And this is our tribute to Anthony Hopkins, who died on May the 6th. We'll conclude with his viola sonata in a few minutes, but first a diversion from the more serious concert music. I mentioned earlier that Hoppy, as he was known to his friends, specialised in incidental and stage music. In 1960, he wrote a musical in slightly irreverent fashion called Johnny the Priest. From the original cast recording, here are Jeremy Brett, yes, he of Sherlock Holmes TV fame, Phyllis Sewell, and Stephanie Voss. It's a sketch called Vicarage Tea.
We are the pillars of the church, protectors of the Protestant ideal. I think you should, for your own good, know how the council feel. They don't want warfare in the parish, they deprecate controversy or fuss. But they think it odd that an honest man of God would rather save the Teddy boys than us.
Surely, Miss Fortescue, the church
Is one foundation. Please let me finish, Mr.
My dear
Highfield.
Miss
Your father's want to interrupt.
I didn't mean to say a thing.
Another lump of sugar. Please do. It's rather strong.
It stood too long. It's far too strong. Though the faithful few I try to serve, they're not the only duty that I hold. For I'm quite sure you're all secure and safely gathered in the fold. But if the simile of flock I may extend, then Luke 15 I'd humbly underline. For in verses 1 to 7 you'll find greater joy in heaven over one sheep found than all your 99.
One final word I have to say, and then I'll go upon my way. It's getting late. I'll take your plate.
Oh, really, can't you stay?
I beg you try to meditate on what I confidently state. Your social attitude is dangerously imbued with heresy derivative from Rome.
I never heard.
Surely, Miss Fortescue, you can have no foundation.
There's a time when even
A charming tea, dear.
Please let me see you to the door.
Oh dear, I've left my gloves behind.
She's left her gloves, her gloves, her gloves.
Oh, here they are. Goodbye, Miss Fortescue. Goodbye. I'm glad you came.
I'm glad you came.
I hope my meaning's clear.
Quite clear to me.
Every word I said was true.
Don't worry.
I much enjoyed our
I
little
much
chat.
enjoyed our
Let
little
my
chat.
husband see you home.
I'll get my
Don't
hat.
worry, just remember. Goodbye. Remember, I meant it. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
You've just been listening to Vicarage Tea, a sketch from the musical comedy Johnny the Priest, which Anthony Hopkins wrote in 1960. This is a special tribute to the composer and broadcaster Anthony Hopkins, who died on May 6th. One of his most admired works is his viola sonata, and I'm going to play the whole work, 14 minutes in duration, to round off this selection of his music. There are 4 movements: march, ground, scherzo, and epilogue. Here are Matthew Jones and Michael Hampton. The Viola Sonata by Anthony Hopkins, as ever not to be confused with the actor. It was played by Matthew Jones and Michael Hampton, and is one of several works by Hopkins included in a double CD retrospective of his music, issued by Divine Art in 2012. Farewell, Anthony Hopkins, who has died aged 93. You're listening to Classical Adventures, brought to you by Divine Art Recordings Group for British Music Radio. Visit our website at divineartrecords.com and listen to our music 24/7 at classicalvermont.com. And So, having said goodbye to a composer, we say hello to some new recordings, and indeed much new music, in our new release roundup. Today, superb Baroque chamber music, romantic piano, contemporary works for oboe and electronics, and both new and old music for countertenors and recorders. Rather than the usual short extracts given the unusual nature of this programme, one entire work from each new CD. The 4 new albums couldn't be more different in terms of the musical style and period, so I'll begin with the 18th century, and in fact we'll return to this CD for a second piece later. We begin with the Keyboard Sonata in A major, Opus 2 No. 5, by John Garth. Gary Cooper, harpsichord, with members of the Avison Ensemble, played the accompanied keyboard sonata in A major by John Garth. It's from his Opus 2 set of 6 two-movement sonatas published in 1768, the work for which Garth was best known during his lifetime. Garth was born in Durham and remained in that vicinity all his life, working closely with Charles Avison, who was just up the road in Newcastle. His keyboard sonatas have a solo part which can be played on its own, but are scored in the then Northern English style, with 2 violins and cello in supporting roles. The solo instrument is a matter of choice, and on this new recording Gary Cooper makes use of a harpsichord, fortepiano and organ in his programme, which also includes the 6 sonatas of Opus 4, written in 1772. Garth's music was almost wholly forgotten until his pioneering cello concertos were dusted off and given their first recording by the Avison Ensemble in 2007. This is the first recording of the sonatas too, and very fine pieces they are. The English equivalent of C.P.E. Bach, it has been suggested. Garth's Opus 2 and Opus 4 accompanied keyboard sonatas are on the Divine Art label, a 2-CD set at the price of 1. Special bargain. The catalogue number DDA 25115. This is Classical Adventures, brought to you by Divine Art Recordings Group. Distinctively different classical music. Shortly, countertenors and recorders in a tribute to Alfred Deller, and dramatic high romanticism. Now we divert into the seething whirlpool of the avant-garde, and a new double album of progressive music for oboe and electronics. The main protagonist is Christopher Redgate, pretty much secure as the world's #1 oboist in the new music field. This is a showcase album with works by 6 composers: Edwin Roxburgh, Christopher Fox, Michael Young, Matthew Wright, David Gorton, and Roger Redgate. Yes, all of the pieces are for oboe. All are modernist in every sense, and all demonstrate the most incredible virtuosity by soloist Redgate. Other than that, the works are all very different. Some use a chamber ensemble, here Ensemble Exposé. Some use live electronics, and others involve sampling and musical collage. So except for the virtuosity aspect, none of the pieces is representative of the others or of the album as a whole. So it's a very difficult choice as to what to play. I've decided to go for a piece by David Gorton, for oboe and chamber ensemble. Using extended techniques and a complex series of interactions between the soloist and ensemble, this piece was premiered by the same performers in 2009. It's called Schmetterlingsspiel, roughly translated as Butterfly Game, and it's performed now by Christopher Redgate and Ensemble Exposé. That was David Gorton's Schmetterlingsspiel. It's from a double album on the Metier label called Electrifying Oboe, MSV 77204. You're listening to Classical Adventures, brought to you by Divine Art Recordings Group for British Music Radio. Visit our website at divineartrecords.com and listen to our music 24/7 at classicalvermont.com. new music now, but of a very different nature. Just released this week is a new Divine Art CD dedicated to the memory of Alfred Deller. Deller was primarily responsible for repopularizing the countertenor voice in Western music, after being discovered in the songroom of Canterbury Cathedral by Michael Tippett. He also helped to reintroduce much music of the 17th century, including works for recorder. Later, we'll play a recorder sonata by William Williams. But first, here's my favourite track from the CD. This is a work for countertenor, recorder, cello and harpsichord, typical of the Middle Baroque, but written in 1985. The composer, Alan Ridout, and the piece, Soliloquy. Soliloquy by Alan Ridout was sung by countertenor Robin Blaze, with John Turner, recorder, Tim Smedley, cello, and Ian Thompson, harpsichord. It's from an album called Remembering Alfred Deller, just released this week. It's on Divine Art, the catalogue number DDA 25114. The album includes music of the 17th and early 18th centuries from George Frederick Handel, John Blow, and William Williams, and from the 20th century from Alan Ridout, Michael Tippett, Walter Bergman, and Peter Racine Fricker, including the partly German Handel, a splendid range of British composers. Also notable for having not one but two countertenors on the recording, Robin Blaze, who we've just heard, and also the great James Bowman. We'll return to two more Baroque gems to end the programme today. The fourth new disc in our survey is mainly concerned with non-British music. In fact, it is a quite superb album of piano transcriptions from grand opera, both Italian and German. But the pianist, Andrew Wright, is from Dundee, which is in Scotland, so that's okay. And he has contributed two items of his own to the recording. One is a concert fantasy on Meyerbeer's Robert le Diable, and the other, which we'll hear now, is a fantasy series of variations based on themes from Bellini and Thalberg. That's Sigismund Thalberg, himself a renowned transcriber of opera. Andrew calls this an affectionate tribute, and it's good music too. Here is Thalbergiana. That was Thalbergiana, Variations on Operatic Themes by Andrew Wright, played by the composer, from a new Divine Art CD called The Operatic Pianist, catalogue number DDA 25113. One thing I've learned while running a relatively small record company is the incredible breadth of styles and genres which today's British composers are writing in. We'll be trying to present as much as we can in the future programmes. Our next programme in June will not have any new releases to feature, so much less talk, much more music in our feature concert. We'll end today's programme with another keyboard sonata by John Garth, and before that, another item from the Deller Tribute CD. William Williams is one of those figures who never achieved real fame and whose life was not chronicled well. We know that he died in 1701, or thereabouts, and that in 1696, or thereabouts, he composed this sonata in A minor for 2 recorders. It's in 3 movements, Adagio, Vivace and Allegro, and is played here by John Turner and Laura Robinson. Classical Adventures is brought to you by Divine Art Recordings Group, the spirit of music. That was Gary Cooper, this time on forte piano, with members of the Avison Ensemble, Pavlo Besniozuk, Caroline Balding, violins, and Richard Tunnicliffe, cello, playing the accompanied keyboard sonata in E minor, Opus 4, No. 2, by John Garth. Quite a mouthful, but fabulous music anyway. Before that, the sonata for two recorders by William Williams was played by John Turner and Laura Robinson. That brings us to the end of Classical Adventures for today. The programme was produced by Divine Art Recordings for British Music Radio. I'm Stephen Sutton. The producer was Gail Parmalee. Thanks for listening, and until next time, goodbye for now.
This is British Music Radio. Classical Adventures is produced for BMR by Divine Arts Recordings. You can hear all previous editions of Classical Adventures at our website.